Isabelle of Valois, the bride of the snow fortress. Snowflakes hung suspended in the air as if the sky had held its breath. In the north of France, on the banks of the Marne River, a castle stood in silence. Its stone walls were cold, layered with years of frost that gleamed like silver. The air carried a hush that comes only before a sacrifice. Today in this fortress, a pact was about to be sealed, one that history might wish to forget. But the earth never does. Inside the castle, a tiny girl stood, just 12 years old, her name, Isabelle of Valois, daughter of King Charles VI of France, and the light of Queen Isabeau of Bavaria's eyes. But today she was no one's daughter, no princess. She was the price of peace between two empires. Maids moved silently around her. In their hands, white silk fabrics, a crown of pearls, and a heavy gown. Everything so precious it seemed they were adorning a goddess, but there was no joy on her face. In her eyes was the bewilderment of a bird that had yet to grasp the meaning of a cage. "Bow your head, princess," one maid whispered. Isabelle bowed her head gently. Threads of pearls were woven into her hair, but to her they were like tears. In the mirror she saw herself, a child wrapped in silk, whom everyone called queen, yet who didn't even know what wife meant. Outside, snow was falling. England's ambassador, priests, courtiers, all gathered. This marriage was a peace treaty between two kingdoms, England and France, who for years had stained the earth with each other's blood, were now sealing reconciliation with the hand of a little girl, and on the other side, King Richard II of England. Richard, 29 at the time, a man shattered by the death of his first wife, Anne of Bohemia. They say he truly loved his wife, and when she died, something inside Richard perished. He became a king imprisoned in his memories, silent, frail yet unable to escape the burden of the crown. His courtiers knew he needed politics, not emotions. So when France demanded marriage for peace, Richard agreed in silence. He didn't know the bride would be a child. When he first saw Isabelle's portrait, he said only, "Too young." But perhaps peace has no age. And so in this snowbound fortress, a ceremony was prepared, the quietest wedding in history. In the castle's grand hall, torches flickered. Their light cast stripes on the stones like scars of time. The priest opened the Bible, his voice thundering, "By the grace of God, let this union bring peace between England and France." A golden ring was placed on the princess's tiny hands. Richard took those hands, so small they fit entirely in his palm. For a moment, he lowered his gaze. Perhaps he felt this moment was not sacred, but tyrannical. But kings are not permitted feelings. Outside the doors, the snow had intensified. Inside the fortress, scents, laughter, and sacred hymns. But in Isabelle's ears, only the sound of her own breaths. She didn't know that on this day. She had become a signature in history. The marriage was complete. And now came what the Middle Ages called the consummation rite, a rite that demanded not love, but proof. Inside the fortress, a secret chamber was prepared. Witnesses, priests, physicians, all summoned. Before them, the innocent child and the 29-year-old king were seated on the same bed. So the world could see the marriage was real and the pact fulfilled. This rite lasted 7 days and 7 nights. Each night after, servants would open the chamber door and testify that the queen had fulfilled her duty. But who would tell that she was only 12? That her body trembled with pain and her soul with fear? That she couldn't even comprehend why this was happening? History says, it was customary, not cruel. But does a custom become free of cruelty if it's called tradition? Isabelle's mother, Queen Isabeau, did not leave her room that day. She said, "I cannot watch my daughter sacrificed in the name of peace." But in royalty, mother's tears are not recorded, only treaties are written. On the other side, after all this, Richard uttered one sentence. "She is but a child. I will wait." They say Richard never touched her. He would say, "Why should an innocent weep for my sins?" But history decides for itself who was the tyrant and who was compelled. The next day, when Isabelle was taken to England, the French courtiers stood at the fortress gates, chanting, "Long live peace between our kingdoms." And behind, a mother's tears fell on the snow, tears that would never melt. Upon reaching England, She was housed in the royal palace, where all began calling her Queen of England. But the doors to her room remained forever closed. The age for play had passed. She was now a mark beneath the crown, a promise, a proof. She would sit daily with her dolls and gaze out the window at the snow she had left behind in France. Sometimes the maids said the queen called Maman, mother, in her sleep, perhaps in every dream. She sought her mother's embrace, which had been buried in the peace treaty. Priests taught her to read and write. Courtiers taught her to smile in court, but no one knew that inside her. A silence was growing, one that would later terrify history. Occasionally, Richard would come to see her, an old king with sorrowful eyes, who told her stories of flowers, rivers, and a land where no wars raged. She listened, but did not understand, for in her world, there was only snow, and snow never melts. A year after the marriage, a courtier wrote, "The little queen grows pale each day. She smiles when told to, and weeps when alone." This was the politics of the Middle Ages, where peace treaties were written not in ink, but in the blood and tears of children. In the end, that snowy fortress night faded into history. The documents recorded, "On this day, peace was sealed between England and France by the holy marriage of King Richard II and Princess Isabelle of Valois." Just that, a few words. No mention of the child's pain, nor the snow's chill, nor the silent room where a mother clutched her heart. But if you go near those stone walls of the fortress even today, they say you hear a whisper beneath the snow, an innocent voice that says, "I was not a bride. I was a promise of peace." This was the reality of the Middle Ages, where innocence was sacrificed in the name of power, and history fell silent, calling it a treaty. Isabel was only 12 that day, and that night, history wrote the meaning of peace for the first time, without blood, but upon the corpses of dreams.